Well, hello there. Congratulations on making it here. We're about to embark on quite the journey towards independence. But before we dive in, let's set some ground rules, shall we? First things first, I will not be engaging with any comments I believe are intended to provoke an emotional reaction. Let's keep things constructive and respectful, shall we? Alright, thanks for understanding. Now, let's delve into some intriguing topics. We're gonna explore the underworld, a realm where many souls wander aimlessly. But just as I refrain from discussing worldly politics, we'll steer clear of the politics of the underworld. Throughout this journey, we'll focus on three main themes: young love, friendship and family dynamics, and the unsettling concept of betrayal. But fear not, we'll just dwell on the problems. We're going to be proactive and offer solutions. As the saying goes, anybody can point out a problem, but it takes somebody to come up with a solution. So let's roll up our sleeves and get to work. I'll be sharing 5 effective counter reactions that help me navigate these murky waters and come out stronger in the end. Are you ready? Because we're about to embark on a journey of discovery and growth. So buckle up and let's navigate these complexities of life together. All right, buckaroos, here we are. So I'm going to be going over substance abuse. I didn't go over this in the relationship building process, but this was an area that I wanted to touch on. And this gives you a little bit more contrast to who I am as a person as well. So at age 13, I got addicted to drugs. And this is what 10 years of addiction looked like to me. This is at my youngest. And this is not me promoting addiction. It just goes to show that addiction can be lived differently than what is happening. Now, my views might be a little bit obscure to yours. So I have a little bit less compassion, I think, for what I allow and what I don't allow. So, the fundamentals of addiction: you have your snorting, smoking, and then shooting. These are all different levels of addiction, and each require its own treatment and have their own psychoses and behavioral patterns. Different levels, different devils. And the need for proper education on drugs, the effects, what it feels like, so someone can run and get help. The street names, because when I got addicted to drugs, I was told it was speed. I had no idea what speed was. If I would have been told it was METH, I would have never done it. I would have never tried it, not even once. Remember those commercials? Not even once? Yeah. But I had no idea that's what speed was. Character reference, as in what the groups of people, especially in high school, and the how addiction can evolve. So for me, from the time that I first tried it, 3 months went by before I craved it. It was like an incubation period, and the school year just ended, and all of a sudden I got the taste in my mouth. Peer pressure, belonging, and self acceptance. I'm going to get more into this on the next slide. As for now, let's just keep going. So, did you know that youth that have drug addictions have a better chance at sobriety than anyone 30 plus years of age? After 30, people get set in their ways, and changing takes a lot more mental effort than it's more of a resistance. You have more resistance after the age of 30. A long-term addiction becomes an attachment. You will bond with the device, with your preferred form of using. So for me, I bonded with a pipe. I found comfort in the pipe, not necessarily the drug, especially after 10 years of addiction. And that being said, is rehab addressing loving through detachment in any which way? Because it's a attachment that you have to break. And after 10 years of being attached to something, a part of your identity goes with it. All right, next slide. So your pillars. You got your pillars over here. You got your young love and environments. You got your betrayal, and you got relationships, behavioral patterns. You got to remember, if it's a youth going into addiction, you have intense emotions because that's all they know. Abuse, mental, emotional, and physical, is definite and should be in health. when you're in school, because these are life skills. These are things that you need to be aware of. Furthermore, you need to know that when you're becoming the abuser after being abused, because hurt people, it's a natural human reaction. We should be expecting these things and preparing children for this. And a lot of this has to do and surrounds around our self-worth. Now, no, I'm not saying you're bad parents in any which way, but there's no such thing as a perfect parent. So if we could just hop on that bandwagon, we could start preparing the new generation to come up with knowledge. And like the damages have been done. So if we're going to focus on, yes, we can change the way we address the damage where it's been done, and we could change our approach. However, the main part of the focus here is going to be changing not only our approach with what's already been done, but what's going to be going forward. So betrayal, parenting with difficult personalities. If you're choosing to stay with somebody in a relationship that is a difficult personality and prevents you from parenting your children, you don't have to force your children to come with you or stay with whatever parent. Think about it this way: everything works itself out. So if you choose to leave that situation, regardless of what's going on, you're doing what's best for you and the children, even if they don't understand it right now. So when the time comes, you're giving the child an option of another place to go. Having to come to terms with what was happening. For me, I had to look at my situation, and I actually disappeared for 10 days and I isolated for 10 days at my aunt's house and kind of processed the actuality of what I was surrounded with and what was I allowing in and around me. From a very young age, I established a code of ethics. This came with believing that everything is a choice in life, but this did not come easy. This is something that evolved with me. I had my code of ethics basic, but what my code of ethics had turned into by the time that I was 16, even, completely different and more established. Relationships, behaviors, and patterns. Self-worth and processing skills could save a person's life. As we'll get this into the next slide as well. My addiction came from family. And what I mean by the self-worth and processing skills can remind someone of who they are and what they're seeking belonging in. Because when you're at the stage where you're rebellious, yes, you want to belong. You want to belong to a group of people, but you don't want to belong to just any group of people. You don't want to find security in places like, yes, they're not out to intentionally hurt you, but I mean, if it's the first time you're doing drugs, are they out to intentionally make sure you do good? No. Right? You can't blame an addict for being an addict. We can blame ourselves for not educating the younger generation to be prepared for what that means, though. One time is all it took for me, and that changed the trajectory of my life for 10 years. This very person that was supposed to keep me safe was the very reason I wasn't. Plant seeds through repetition and encouragement when someone is in active addiction, but make sure to maintain distance, because the best way they're going to learn is on their own. If you're continually supporting them, you're making their journey easier, which, I mean, maybe it sounds a little harsh, but I'm happy I didn't have anybody. I'm happy I had to figure it out, because if I didn't, I'd probably still be back where I was. And then remaining in control. Of course, this is how the dynamics of addiction. The nature of addiction is rather predictable. Looks, associations, belongings, eventually, as you can see, I would refer to the M chart for your emotional approaches, making sure that vulnerability and humility are your first 2 points, and then shifting between accountability, change, and compassion. The emotional obstacles that you will face. And I knew right away that I knew right away that the universal truth of this was acceptance. So as soon as I understood that we're constantly faced with acceptance in so many different ways, throughout a day even, and the many different ways that acceptance can evolve, the easier it was for me to see things as they were and let it go. Let go and let God. Coming back up here, so education is the only way forward. I'm not asking you to be skeptical of your family in any which way. The only thing that we can do, but we are giving trust to both all people involved, because you never know when it's going to happen. You don't know who. So when I first started using, my best friend at the time and I made a pact to smoke every day for the rest of that summer. Why? Because it made me skinny, or made us skinny. The best shot at success is to get this person out of the victim mentality. And it took me 2 years before I was fully out of the victim mentality, and I went kicking and screaming, and I was in a relationship with someone that I was trying to prove myself to. So imagine a child who doesn't feel they owe you anything and asking them to lay down their sword. There is a process for this, but you need to make sure that you're hitting it with humility and vulnerability at your core. So remember the relationship building process. The reason why I started doing drugs, because it made me skinny. Remember that your actions have consequences. And if you're not going to take the relationship building process in my previous series seriously, at this point right here, you're probably wishing that you told your daughter she was beautiful. And I wrote this quote when I was having a conversation with someone. What are we really trying to escape though? What if the attachment is to escaping, because that's the only place we feel genuinely validated? Even if it's only for a split second, the real question is, what am I validating when I'm escaping? Self-love versus self-concept. Your self-concept is where you fit in the world, in society. Well, you want to know what I say to that. I've never really been accepted from day one. Sounds like a bunch of ideals to me, and that's never really been my thing. So, as long as you're respectful, no harm to others, and you're respectful to yourself, I think you're A-okay. You know? Mind your P's and Q's. I mean, the rules of my life have definitely shifted. But that's where you're a strong, 1 minute here, having a strong character comes into play, because throughout everything that I went through, my psyche could have broken many times and I could have been stuck in a psychosis, telling myself false narratives. But no, because I have a strong character, I never really went against my core. Knowing who you are at your core and having that strong foundation is what you need to do to survive trauma. And that core wasn't always there. I figured it out. I learned about my attachment style. I went right down deep into who I was and figured out why I like things, why I don't. What does my heart tell me? Where am I being guided? And also often substance abuse can take us away from being able to be that person in our child's life. My mom, when she used to come at me and try to get answers from me or push me into something I didn't want to do, I would push back at her 10 times worse. So she stopped. God bless that woman's heart. Rest her soul. I wish I would have got more time with her, but you live and you learn. Emotions can be a very confusing thing when you don't know the difference between primary and secondary emotions. Finding out who you are at your core, realizing there's no such thing as a perfect parent, and knowing the value of time and the universal law of acceptance can shift your reality. All right, until the next one, guys. Peace and love. Ciao for now.